Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We are here to plug you in to the world of professional wrestling. I'm Keely and I'm joined, as always, by Fisher and Krusty.
Hi guys.
Hey everyone.
And today, this is a end of year 2022 review show, just to talk about our thoughts on the year as a whole and kind of rattle through categories as well. We did this last year. For those of you that saw that with Tizzle, we had an extra last year, but it's the three of us this year. And I mean, 2022 in wrestling was mental, wasn't it? It's one of the more insane years I can remember. From AEW maybe more established this year than ever before, and they've had all these partnerships with New Japan and all that. And then you've got the Vince news, like Triple H taking over. Like, this is something that we haven't seen for 30 plus years in our lifetime, realistically, this year. So it's a mad year. A lot of stuff happened, but I think we should dissect it in a bit more detail. And I think the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about is match of the year. That's, I think, quite a interesting category. It's quite hard as well to remember back to some of the matches earlier in the year. And I think with these sort of discussions, you've got to be careful not to have too much recency bias. But I don't know if you guys had anything you want to kind of talk about when we speak about match of the year. Has anything kind of come to mind?
Well, I'll start because I think what I want to say, obviously, as well, you talk about recency bias. I think the one bias we might have between all of us is watching one show in person live bias. Because I think the fact we were at Clash at the Castle, and that was such a big deal for us to have a UK pay-per-view, I feel like a lot of the stuff we talk about is going to be biased towards that. And match of the year for me probably comes in under that as one of my I've got a few options, but one of my matches of the year for sure was Sheamus versus Gunther.
Yeah, that was also on my list.
Yeah, I have that one written down as
which was an incredible match, but because we were there live, that's probably why I've got it like top of my list. Whereas it might not have been top had I not been there. So I think that was the crowd getting so behind Sheamus was just such a cool thing. Gunther, one of my favorite wrestlers anyway, as you will know.
But I was going to say, you could probably have about 3 or 4 Gunther matches in this discussion. Because he just puts on
every year he's in my match of the year.
Banger after banger.
I mean, last year I'm pretty sure my match of the year was a Gunther match last year, if I remember rightly. Yeah. And the year before that probably would have been if we were doing a pod, but I don't think we were doing a podcast then. So, for me that was one special match because we got to see a crazy match like that in such a good atmosphere in person. That's probably going to be my match of the year. I'll talk about some other options in a minute as well, but I'll get your guys' thoughts on that, Krusty, particularly because you said it was on your list and you haven't said anything yet.
Yeah, same as you, really. I think the fact we were there live, the crowd were really engaged, including ourselves, and we know Sheamus and Gunther are 2 of the biggest hitters in the game, which just made it a phenomenal match. The state of them guys' chests after this match was incredible, which showed how much they put into this match. And Sheamus's sort of catchphrase, banger after banger after banger, is legit, isn't it? I mean, everything we mentioned, Gunther could probably have a few matches in the top. I think Sheamus could too.
That's a good point. Is one
if you really thought about it.
As well, he's had such a good year match wise. He might not be on the wrestler of the year shortlist, but if we were doing sort of unsung heroes of the year, which I don't know if is something we're going to cover at all, but he would certainly be amongst those because he's been so good this year. And I feel like people are starting to give him credit, but like at the same time, he's had probably the best year of his career. And he's had, he's been around.
He stepped up to the plate, hasn't he? He really has. When he first came up, it was a little bit wavery, but when he sort of really got to grips with the Intercontinental title, I think that's when he's really stepped up. Really have enjoyed him, and Triple H just seemed to know how to use him.
Yeah, he does. Even Vince towards the end of Vince's run, Sheamus was still being booked pretty well. And yeah, I mean, this match is on it. I mean, and you say about one show bias. I think you'll listen to a few podcasts around and videos about people talking about this sort of stuff. This match will be in everyone's list.
Yes.
This isn't because this is elevated because we're there, but this match will be on there.
Wherever everyone else I've heard sort of do similar things have said this match as well. To be fair, so yeah,
exactly. I mean, another match I want to bring to the table as well is Seth Rollins v Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that was on
Hell in a Cell.
One?
Hell in a Cell.
Are we sharing the same list? Have we been sharing our notes here?
Well, I thought we might have similar lists because I mean the match itself is if you take away the obvious injury aspect of it, the match itself is really good, but the story told with the injury and just that match is going to stick with me for in 10 years time. I'll still mention this match, I think, because that image of the torn pec and the bruising, and not only that, that comes up, on Raws and stuff. They will kind of go back and show clips of that, and some of the pressure Seth puts on his pec during that match is insane. Like that must have caused Cody ridiculous. I'm sure we've discussed this in much detail anyway, but that match for me may even tip match of the year just for the significance of it. It just felt.
I think I agree with you there. Just as you say, the match was good, but it wouldn't be a match of the year contender if you were just going on wrestling. But the overall aura around it, the bitterness between Seth and Cody building to that point, and then the fact that Cody Rhodes actually wrestled in that state, and then also the things that sort of came after it as well. It's just incredible that he managed to wrestle in that state, and as you say, the storytelling around it was phenomenal, and the match was actually better than a lot of matches we see, even with such a horrific injury. And even now I'm wondering what's going to come off the back of that. Is that it? Are we going to see any more? Are we going to get more built off of that story? I completely agree with you in terms of, did it tip the year, the match of the year? Potentially for me, and especially more memorable. As much as I absolutely loved Gunther versus Sheamus, which was the other one on my list, I think memorability, it had to be that image of Cody and his shoulder.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Yeah, I agree with you as well.
Yeah, just a mad one. On the subject of mad ones as well, there was SummerSlam. We had Brock Lesnar v Roman Reigns in an absolutely mental match. The bringing the tractor down to the ring, lifting the ring. Then you had Theory try and cash in towards the end. You had the Usos. It was a bit chaotic, but that match just that just stick in my mind. Probably not a match of the year. Probably doesn't quite. It's hard to put that one above the other two we've mentioned, but that one
that would have made my list involving Roman if the result would have been different was probably, again, Clash of the Castle.
Yeah.
Drew versus Roman.
Yeah.
I think the storytelling in that and the ups and downs has to make it a contender. I think we're all a bit sour on it because of how Drew didn't win, but really the storytelling, the wrestling, and the sort of stages it went through, with Drew peaking and troughing and then literally having it snatched away from him. Even the little bits like Theory coming out to cash in and then being punched in the face by Tyson Fury. Fury. I always get confused, but I just think it really has to be spoken about, even if we didn't like the result.
Yeah, that's fair. It was amazing. I think the other match that comes to my mind as well is it was a recent pay-per-view, so maybe it's my recency bias. We had that triple threat between Austin Theory, Bobby Lashley, and Seth Rollins, which was an absolute banger for the US title, which Theory won. That one just maybe that's a recency one. Maybe if it happened in February, I might not have it on my list. Yeah,
but for same pay-per-view, but for story reasons, the men's War Games match for me was really, really good.
Yep.
Match. I really, really thought that was great. I'm sure we'll talk about the bloodline and Sami Zayn and people a lot when we're talking about this year.
Yeah.
But that was one of the standout sort of matches for the year for me. From them, I've got a couple of other matches to mention.
Yeah,
I feel like we should mention a women's match or two.
Yep.
And Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania was very, very good. I also, this is more of maybe a recency bias one, but Jamie Hayter versus Sakari Shida in AEW was a really, really good women's match as well. There's been one or two others that have been very
one
good.
that stands out for me, I guess, on a recency thing is probably Belair versus Bailey at Crown Jewel. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
that was the one where she KO'd her sort of onto the ladder, and it was absolutely savage.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, sometimes you can really. I don't want to seem too biased towards the men, but this year I think the women have struggled slightly in comparison.
Yeah, do you know, I was going to get onto that when we when we get on to later talking about male of the year, female of the year. I found it a lot easier to list off male names. Females this year, and this isn't, you know, this is just a this year thing, because last year, I think my match of the year last year was Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. I think that's what that got my match of the year last year, and I think I was very hard on a lot of the women's stuff last year. This year, I think maybe because, you know, Roman Reigns is on a different stratosphere to anyone else. It just, I don't know. It's, you know, this happens. There's
been a lot of the same.
There are peaks and troughs. Yeah.
I mean, it was very surprising the other day. I know the stats were released for the amount of matches people had this year, and Bianca Belair was the, I believe,
she's in top 5
woman. Yeah, top 5 superstars of the matches in the top.
Yeah, there's her and Liv Morgan.
That's it. Liv Morgan was just above, wasn't she? But I remember a spell where Bianca felt like she didn't wrestle, or maybe she did, but it was always in 6-ways or tag team, and it didn't feel relevant to the title scene, which I think made me, because I don't remember any of those matches. They're just sort of part of the course, week in, week out matches, but none of them are going, oh wow, look at that. I think that's probably the issue. And thinking back, apart from the match at Crown Jewel with Bailey, which was great, I don't remember when she defended the title in a singles match. It was all around the since the introduction of damage control. That's been it, hasn't it? Oscar and Alexa with Bianca. So it's difficult to remember those matches, and it wasn't until you mentioned it, Fisher, that it actually popped into my head.
Yeah, and I also thought talking to War Games, I thought the women's War Games match was actually very, very good as well.
Actually, I think I'm thinking back, it preferred it to the men's.
Yeah, in terms of as a
we?
wrestling match, in terms of the moves they did and the spots, I think it was probably better. But I think I preferred the men's overall just because of the story behind
storytelling.
The storytelling depends what you look for, but they were both different, but they were both very, very good.
It's interesting because you just reminded me, we just got off wrestling. Remember there being a match in AEW. I think it's Will Ospreay beat Orange Cassidy.
Yes,
that
was my other AEW one to bring up.
Banger.
At Forbidden Door, that was.
Yeah, that Forbidden Door era, and maybe you'll get to say one in the pod, but that Forbidden Door era as well, I kind of, my AEW interest lost. But Will Ospreay is one person that stuck with me because he was phenomenal. And I just remember his match with Orange Cassidy being an absolute banger.
Yeah, that was really, really good.
I'm sure there's been a lot, you know, we're probably not giving AW justice. It's probably, you know, AW put on banger matches all the time.
Yeah.
To be honest, you could probably say 2 out of the 3 of the recent best out of 7 with Death Triangle versus
actually
the Elite.
The one from this week was pretty good.
Most of them could probably, if you're just talking about wrestling, could be, but in the top 10. But it's the story around it is not as encapsulating as the Seth Cody stuff, I feel. They are just putting it on for an amazing wrestling spectacle, which I completely love. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But
Firstly, I've got another one for you that I know you wanted to bring up because you mentioned it came up in our quiz the other day, which was the day 1 match.
Yes,
did you get around to rewatching that? Or...
I haven't. We're only recording a couple of days later. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to watch it. But The thing is, I can't remember any big spots from that, but I do recall it being an absolute scorcher.
It was really good, yeah.
With like finishers everywhere. I seem to remember
Oh.
one section where it was just finisher after finisher.
I've got another one I've just thought of actually as well, which was Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. The match was obviously it ended in a DQ, which was a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
In a wet sense. But Seth coming out in the Shield gear,
storytelling there.
and the match itself was really, really good. That was another one early in the year. I'm just trying to think back earlier in the year of matches because it's not as easy. Is there anything from NXT this year that's caught your eye?
NXT.
I can only think of one.
NXT is difficult because NXT have been bogged down with the same champions for most of the year. And as much as I actually kind of quite like both of them, Braun Breaker and Mandy Rose, neither of them are like top tier wrestlers.
No.
So a lot of the main title matches haven't been memorable. Like Braun Breaker, I can't remember one memorable. Braun v Dolph, probably the best he got out of his run. He's still champ, but yeah, so that's why I think NXT maybe struggled. There's probably a few
You
North
might be able to
American
help me
bangers.
out because I can't remember who it was against, but I remember Imperium having an absolute cracker of a match before they get called up to the main roster. It was on NXT. I can't remember who they were facing, but it was incredible.
Was that when they MSK and Riddle? They had a 6-man. When Riddle, they did that MSK. Was that this year? Or was that last year?
God, I don't know.
I don't know, but whatever it was,
there was that storyline where
Imperium.
the MSK were finding their tag team guru, and it was Riddle, and then they had a 6-man against Imperium.
There's a couple of matches from NXT that stood out. There was the ladder match. Was it ladder match? Sorry, no, not the ladder match. The
Iron Survivor.
Iron Survivor thing, the men's one of those
was really good. That was good.
And also Carmelo Hayes versus Ricochet from Wales Clyde was spot on. That was very, very good as well. I just remember that because it was Ricochet in NXT, which was obviously really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, again, slightly off NXT, but there is a link there. We also had the New Day and the Usos got another absolute banger tag team match towards again. That's a recency one.
Difficult slightly with tag team matches because they do get watered down so much. The fact they do them over and over again.
Yeah.
So thinking back, Usos and Street Profits, there's been a few of their matches.
Money in the
incredible.
Bank, I think it was.
Money in the Bank was the big one. Yeah. But again, it sort of waters it down just because it's so often that these guys face off. There's been amazing ones. I mean, not match of the year, but I think as in standout performances, Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Wasn't it,
I did enjoy that a lot. We could probably go on all night about this, couldn't we?
Should we move on to other matches?
Very nostalgic.
I feel like otherwise we're just going to talk about matches.
Should we start? Should we go on to how about female superstar of the year?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about. If you got what are you bringing to the table, Krusty? What have you got for us?
Standout for me will be Rhea Ripley. I think she was in a bit of a sort of a stale time at one point. We got a little bit excited when we thought, oh, maybe she's going to face off against Belair, and then that sort of got canned when she got injured, and we wondered what was going to happen. And then suddenly the Judgment Day came along and she got drafted into that, and I think her character has just built so well around this. What she's done with Dominic Mysterio has kind of made him relevant in a way as well, and just showing her power. Finally, she's showing her power and dominance, which really suits her look as well, and she's just really gelled into this. The sort of wrestling and standing up to the male superstars as well, I think is great because she's got such persona about her. She's a real good size as well.
She had that body slam on Luke Gallows, which was mental.
Oh, incredible. But yeah, I've just really enjoyed the matches she's had, like little things like the pin she uses. So domineering. I just love her in general. I just think she's got the whole package. I really do, and I'm really pleased she's found her feet.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's found her character this year. I think her as a babyface on the main roster, she was always not quite into it as much as she is now. Now she's found herself. The only thing I would say is I don't know if she's wrestled enough to be superstar of the year, female superstar of the year, because there was a period where she didn't wrestle for a few months until she went down to NXT, had a match in NXT.
She was still around during that period.
The thing is, if
but she has been on
this
TV
is jumping
regularly,
about a bit, but I would say if you're talking about people wrestling enough, I would question, which I guarantee you're going to bring Sami Zayn up, is in the male superstar, and I don't think he wrestles that often. But it's the character.
that's fair.
I might be wrong, but I doubt it.
It's open category. I mean, it's what we enjoy.
I thought you were going to say Roman.
No, I'm going in now.
I thought you were going to say Roman, to be honest, Krusty, because I think that's a legitimate criticism for Roman as well.
Yeah. I'll back off.
But sort of piggybacking on your Rhea point, I think she's definitely in the conversation. The fact that she's kind of even had an intergender match with Tozawa just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
For her to have that and like you said, a slam on Gallows and interactions with Edge and stuff like that, like really, really good stuff. She's probably not going to be number one pick for me, but I think she will. She's a good shout.
She was the most interesting for me.
I think she's a good shout for 2023 Women's Wrestler of the Year because I think she might win the Royal Rumble. I think she might get a title run at WrestleMania and go even from strength to strength and have more matches and better matches, because some of her matches are good. I don't think in ring she's top tier yet. I think she's very good, but
I don't think she's quite Belair Becky level in ring yet.
Yeah, and if she can do that this year as well, then I think 100%. But yeah, her character's been nailed down. Judgment Day got off to a bit of a rocky start, but I think they've turned it round.
But they got
Rhea's
off to a rocky start.
Reason.
Yeah, when Rhea got injured is when they were rocky. When she come back, they got picked up again.
Well, I think also the fact that Edge was in it, then they turned on him very quickly. There was a lot of confusing stuff at the start that I don't think worked particularly well. But I think they've seen that out now, and it's all been very good recently. And I love the stuff she's done with Dom and them going to Ray's house and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it?
Over this festive period has been good. Yeah, like I say, maybe a few more matches and top tier matches. Like she's had, to me, it's not the fact she hasn't wrestled enough. I think she has. It's more, there's no matches where I'm like, that's the Rhea Ripley match where like she was amazing.
I can't think of that.
There's not been one of those for me.
I can't think too many in general.
No, but she hasn't been near the title scene either. She had she was number one contender and then she got injured and then they blew that off. But she's never in the title picture, which is a booking decision, I guess. It's whatever. But yeah, that's again, that's the only thing I'd put against her. But she's on my list, definitely.
She was number sort of 2 or 3 on mine rather than number 1, but she was definitely on it.
I mean, someone else I want to mention. This is a interesting one because I just want to mention Liv Morgan. I think this has been the year of Liv Morgan. She is.
It's definitely been her best year.
Yeah, I think, was it this year where she had that match with Becky on Raw, which I raved about? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
Right, like January, February this year.
Yeah.
Then a title match, and it was like a TV match, main event, and it went on for like 20 minutes. Absolute banger. She's gone for all that, and this is a personal thing, but I've always not been sure on Liv. But then this year, I've really thought, she is actually moving up the card, and it all kind of accumulated the money in the bank, winning the title. The thing that goes against her is her title run, which was pants, and she, had that funny finish with Ronda. I think her problem was she was paired with Ronda, which just
it's a poison chalice at this point.
Yeah,
and when we get to like the review, if we do a review this week of SmackDown coming up, like. We'll talk about that. But yeah, Ronda's run was a disaster and it didn't help Liv one bit.
No, but she lost the title and then she's still been kept relevant. She had that little hardcore stuff with Sonya Deville for a bit and now she's teaming up with Tegan.
They had some good matches, her and Sonya. There was nothing wrong with that.
So I think if that title run, if it was just a bit better, I would probably pick her as my Woman of the Year. That probably just puts me off a little bit. It's hard to, because there's that sour taste, that title run just wasn't what it should have been for Liv.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to move on to, I don't know whether to do honourable mentions first or with a person. I think me and you might have the same number 1, Keeney, so maybe we'll save her for last.
Mm-hmm.
honorable mentions, I want to mention Mandy Rose. We've already mentioned her a little bit. I
Yeah.
know she didn't have any like top tier matches, but her reinvention, and obviously she's been fired now and everything, so she's gone, which is a bit of a shame. But the year she's had in NXT as like dominant women's champion, I think she deserves a lot of credit. And the one who I think's come from not nowhere, because I think we all thought she was good, but has really like shone this year is Jamie Hayter. To become AEW
her year at AEW,
outshining Britt Baker now at this point, having really good matches with Shida, like with Tony Storm and stuff.
And the storyline was really good as well. To the build.
And I just think this has been the year of her sort of becoming a main star in AEW, which I wasn't sure was going to happen. I wanted it to, and I think it should, but I didn't think it would happen this quickly for her. So she definitely deserves an honourable mention, I think, as well.
I mean, in that same instance, do you reckon Tony Storm deserves a mention because she went over to AEW?
I wasn't
ran the division
as
for a bit.
keen on Tony's. If I'm honest, if I was putting them side by side, I don't feel Tony's was as impactful.
No, but just from the start of the year, she was in WWE at the start of the year.
Yeah, I feel like it was the end. Was it December or January?
It was end of last year. So, but she was kind of at the bottom of the WWE cards, and now she's moved to AEW and been pushed a bit. Well, a lot stronger. She was champ for a decent amount of time.
Speaking about AEW, I think Jade Cargill's worth a mention.
Yeah, of course,
for sure. Very dominant, good in ring. Great on the mic. Again, like Fisher's mentioned recently with Rhea, no standout matches. I go, wow, what a match. But overall,
I think she's a hard person to book, though, Jade. I think it's hard to book her in a proper, good match because she should just destroy everyone. So it's hard. Kind of like they have issue with Ronda in WWE. It's a hard person to book, and it's hard to get a great match out of her. I think the only thing again goes against Jade a little bit is she's been doing this baddies stuff for like well over a year now, and nothing's really progressed. You have people move in and out of it, and like Kira Hogan or whoever. But I don't know. To me, it's just not that entertaining, and that's just been her whole year. It's basically been that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing against her.
She wouldn't have been in my conversation mainly for that reason, I think. Shall we move on to?
Well,
who's your top one? Because I can't mention anyone else till I know.
One other honourable mention, maybe two actually. Cora Jade, I think her heel turn has. I mean, Krusty, this time last year we were laughing about Cora Jade. I
don't know about laughing, but
we were giving her some stick.
We were giving her some real stick. Yeah,
BFAB's not in this conversation. She should mention on this podcast BFAB.
I
Cora Jade was a bit
of
of a joke this time last year. Now she's turned heel and she's had some decent matches. Like her match with Roxanne Perez. She's had some.
Roxanne would have been on my list.
And Roxanne was everyone I was going to mention. I was like, it's hard to mention Cora without Roxanne, but they both are kind of young upcomers who are doing really good.
They're people that, again, 2023, they could be like on this list. They're that good.
Yeah.
But they're more breakout stars than wrestlers of the year.
I think 2024 Royal Rumble wouldn't be surprised if we see one of those two.
2024?
2024. So I don't think you're going to get Roxanne coming up to the main roster in a month.
No.
Next year, potentially.
Yeah. I'm assuming, Keenan, as you haven't mentioned it yet, number one, Bianca Belair.
I think so. I think so.
The year
I think she has to be.
The match with Lynch at Mania, the matches with Bayley have been pretty good. Just the fact she's been
just a shame. I think it's fizzled out a little bit towards the end of the year. But
I think it's hard with babyface title runs. They always go a bit stale after a few months, especially when you feud. She feuded with Bayley for a very long time. It felt like there was nobody else to feud with. I kind of like the fact she's now feuding with Alexa Bliss. I think that's going somewhere.
Yeah, but
different and interesting.
That's the only thing. Even now, though, her Alexa Bliss feud feels secondary to Becky and Bayley. That feels like the top women's feud on Raw, and then Belair's title was always a bit secondary. Like Damage Control.
There's anything wrong with that, though.
No, there's not. But we're given a female superstar of the year, and she's not even the number one storyline in her division on her show. That's the only
I think if
thing I had
Becky hadn't have had
against her.
such a long time off and had been wrestling continuously, I think she'd have had this spot because the impact.
Yeah.
That was who I was waiting to mention, but
Yeah,
the impact
Becky's
she's
had some
had
years,
just
yeah.
since she came back.
Yeah.
Just
Um,
shame she was off for most of the year.
Yeah,
just
obviously she can't
whenever
be in the
she just
conversation
doesn't
for
miss,
the
does
right
she?
job.
I mean,
Yeah.
the whole time she's been here, she has been phenomenal. I
Yeah.
can't think of anything where I go, oh, Becky, why did you do that? That's
Yeah,
rubbish."
and since she turned face, particularly, it's been
Yeah.
even better, I would say.
So yeah,
No, I agree with that.
but no, I think it's a strong category. It is a very strong category.
No, we've just mentioned like 10, 15 names there. Like,
Yeah, and
we haven't even
could have got
mentioned like
more.
Raquel or anyone like, there's others that have had good years. So
Mickey. I was trying to
Who?
get Mickey in there. I was trying to get Mickey in there, but I'm not.
I was a
Ah.
Big E.
I mean,
I
someone
was-
who was wasted, really, who definitely could have been in this if it didn't go. She didn't get injured and also didn't go a bit strange. Was Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
She had a cracking start to the year, and then
she was in our
went wrong.
discussion last year. At this point,
Yeah.
And
And the same, like even Sasha Banks and stuff, like not wrestling much this year. Obviously, with
Yeah.
the walkout,
Britt
which we'll
Baker.
get to later.
Britt
Yeah,
Baker this
there's
time a
other
year
top
ago,
stars. I mean,
yeah.
Charlotte as well had a lot of time off. So there's been a lot of the top stars missing, really, throughout the year. Bailey as well only had the second half of the year. So, it's been quite up and down for the women's divisions.
There's been a lot of
particularly,
people
both
out
shows.
for long periods. Yeah, it's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Let's move on to men then, I guess. If we're
Let's go on to men.
Yeah.
Um,
For me, I have like 5 names written down, and for me, they're like the clear top 5 wrestlers of the year. In terms of WWE and AEW, there are others that deserve a mention, but yeah, I don't know if you have any other different guys to this, but I'll start with
Reel them off. Let's discuss them.
Yeah.
So there's 3 from WWE and 2 from AEW.
okay.
So the 3 from WWE, Roman Reigns is obviously on there because the dominant title run, the Bloodline storyline, been the best storyline in wrestling. Some of his matches have been pretty good. The ones with Brock, the one with Seth at the start of the year that we mentioned, the War Games stuff. He's not had the Logan Paul match was good. Like he's been involved in quite a lot of good matches. No like 5-stars. The one with Drew at Clash as well. I didn't even mention that. That was really good. In terms of match quality, Seth Rollins has to be probably number 1 in terms of match quality. Obviously the matches with Cody.
I think
absolutely
storylines
phenomenal.
as
The matches
well.
with Riddle.
He's right
very
up
good.
there.
I think you're muted. Oh, I heard
I'm
the
back.
echo.
Sorry. In terms of
thought you were muted.
storyline as well,
Yeah.
Seth doesn't. He's not had a bad one this year.
Yeah.
We've got rid of all the rubbish we had over the last couple of years. Although last year was Edge, so that definitely wasn't rubbish.
Yeah. No.
But this year you've had Cody. You've then had he seems to have
Riddle.
been feuding with everyone this year.
Riddle,
you also had the Roman
Theory,
stuff
Lashley.
right at the start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Roman.
Theory and
Incredible.
Lashley later on. Yeah. So he's had a lot of really, really good matches. So in terms of match quality, Roman, going back to the Bloodline storyline, I think obviously Sami Zayn, I mean, what a year for him, character-wise. He's had some good matches as
phenomenal.
well. I think forgetting the sort of the first half of the year before he was in the Bloodline, he was sort of still having intercontinental title matches. He had the match with Knoxville at WrestleMania, which was phenomenal. Considering Knoxville's not a wrestler, he carried him to a very good match, in my opinion. So, match-wise as well, I think he's been pretty good. He probably hasn't, I think Krusty's point, he probably hasn't wrestled as much since he's been in the Bloodline because it's been more character-based. And that's
I've
fair
enjoyed
enough.
that. I was just taking a shot at Keeney.
No, I know. I do think it's actually a valid point in terms of they don't wrestle as much. So yeah, they're my 3 from WWE.
I had a couple of additional ones that I think need a mention. Again, I don't think they'd obviously be the top superstar of the year, but I think Sheamus definitely needs a mention.
Yep, 100%.
This year. We've already mentioned Gunther and given the praise, especially from match quality anyway. And everyone else, I agree with you, from WWE for sure.
I mean, Kevin Owens as well, like, has had a brilliant sort of last couple of months. And obviously, WrestleMania match with Stone Cold Steve Austin, you don't get much better than that. He deserves an honourable mention for that, in my opinion, for even having a match with Stone Cold. Bobby Lashley, we've talked about how he seems to be getting better and better. I think
Austin
he's had a
Theory.
really strong year. Austin Theory. I do think he had a not his fault, but the briefcase held him back a little bit, I think, from having a really strong year.
Yeah.
But he's still got better and better as the year's gone on. And I think, again, 2023, he's one to watch out for 100%.
Well, even think back to his Pat McAfee stuff at Mania. That was like a decent build that he was a big part in. So yeah, I think Theory's a mention. But yeah, realistically, it comes down to a couple. I'm interested in your AEW ones because I don't think I've got as many on my list. So I'm interested.
I've only literally got 2 from AEW really.
Okay.
For this year. MJF being the obvious, I think. Obviously had the walkout from AEW, was gone for a while, but come back, won the belt, and it's just, I mean, he's
definitely brilliant. The biggest draw,
absolutely
for me, definitely in AEW.
Yeah, especially
definitely one who hasn't had enough matches again. But storyline and promo quality.
I mean, the feud with Punk was really good until obviously it all
phenomenal stuff.
And again, in matches of the year, they could have had a mention for the storyline stuff they did.
Yeah, that was a banger. Absolutely, it was a banger.
It was really, really good. But yeah, obviously Hayes mentioned, and I mean, John Moxley deserves massive credit for just carrying the company through all the shit. All 3 Shield members are in my top 5. I think that says so much about them.
Yeah,
they're the 3 top guys in the business, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're the 3
loved
best guys.
the promo the other day actually, with Seth being told he was the bottom. Was it Theory who told him he was the worst Shield member?
Your third member
I was
of the
like,
Shield.
savage. That's. I love
he might
that.
be. He might be. That's a mad thing. He might be, but he also might be.
If in terms of title and presence, because of titles, yes. In terms of quality, I think he's.
In terms of match quality,
I'd struggle to say he's not number one.
He's the best wrestler out of the 3.
If Roman wasn't with the Bloodline, he would not be on the pinnacle he's on at the moment. In terms of one superstar looking after themselves, I think Seth's there. You can't. I don't think you can doubt that. I mean, he's everything, isn't he?
But yeah,
someone we haven't mentioned, back to WWE, who had an incredible, certainly start to the year, and he still had a decent end to the year. Maybe the last couple of months have gone a bit flat. Is Bobby Lashley?
I mentioned him.
Oh, you did mention him. Sorry.
I did. I said we talk about him a lot, but yeah, he's had a great year overall. Obviously, he was WWE champion at one point.
Yeah,
early in the year. I mean, that was all a bit of a blur. That was such a mess, that booking from
won
day one through
at the
to
Rumble,
WrestleMania.
didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so through day one, when Big E had the title, then lost it, all the way through to WrestleMania was a complete mess that Vince created, and we still haven't really recovered from properly.
No, we haven't. Still got
so that is all a bit of a blur. But yeah, Bobby Lashley's had a good, very good year as well. Again.
Yeah, I don't think I've any other names for you. I've got again, we've got. I think we should mention like we did last year. We did like breakout and stuff of the year, or like unsung, whatever you want to word it. I think there's a few names that maybe go into that category, so I won't mention them here. But for me, out of all of the people we've discussed, and this is essentially my list as well, I would personally go for Seth as Superstar of the Year. I think he has, without being too much in the main title picture, because it's hard to be with the way Roman is, he has been the most relevant person on Monday Night Raw every week. Like, he is, everything he does is blockbuster. Whether it's that little, he had a 2-3 week build to get towards Roman at the Rumble. He made that work. Just his knock on the door was like, oh, how's he made this like feel important? Like, he then, all the stuff with Riddle and this IC title triple threat stuff, and just everything Seth does is sensational. And I think you mentioned Cody.
Obviously, the Cody stuff.
Yeah.
You forget all this is in 1 year.
Yeah.
That is mad.
He's
how
packed
much
all
is
of this
into 1
in.
year.
And
the Kevin Owens stuff as well.
Yeah.
And that was the start of the year, wasn't it?
That was the start of the year. Yeah.
They
broke
like
up before WrestleMania, didn't they? As a tag team.
Yeah. But all of this, and he has wrestled almost every week as well. Like, we always, you mentioned Sammy, Roman haven't wrestled enough. All of these MJF haven't wrestled enough. Well, Seth has. Seth's wrestled more than most this year.
And how many can you think
he's done it all
that were a rubbish match?
I
can't think of one. I literally can't go, oh my
Yeah.
God, that was awful.
I know. Just sensational. Every promo he does is like
I think you make a very compelling
memorable,
argument.
and not like even his entrances. Like he's orchestrating the crowd. Like everything he does is just like perfect. It is perfect. And Roman is still the top guy in wrestling. That's not up for debate for me.
No.
But Seth is the best wrestler. If you understand the difference, Roman's the top guy, Seth's the best wrestler.
I
And
get you completely, and
Yeah.
I agree with you as well. I'd love to say Seth's top guy, being who I am and the fandom I've got, but Roman's definitely the guy. But I think Seth
I
has
had
to take
Roman
it.
as number one in my superstar on the list. Purely because I think the storyline carries it. The matches, I mean, I listed quite a few a minute ago. Main event
he has
matches
had
that were
bangers,
really, really good.
Just after Mania, he disappeared like off the.
Yeah,
face of the
I'd like
earth.
to have been around a little bit more, but just
There
I
was
just
a
can't
point I
look
wanted
past
him to
him.
drop those titles, which I shouldn't be thinking as
Well,
a
he's
Roman
dropped
Reigns
one.
fan.
I wanted him to drop one.
Yeah.
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 That's purely because Raw was struggling. It wasn't because Roman. It wasn't because of Roman. To be honest, it was because Raw was struggling big time without a main title. They've kind of rectified that a little bit now, but I'd still like to see, obviously, a world title one more. Any other mentions before we move on to something else?
I mean, I just think we should probably mention Sami Zayn a bit more. He's had the best year.
It's been incredible.
Any like, it's not even. I can't even kind of put into words how good his year's been. Sami Zayn.
He's made me a fan, which is a big
He
deal.
has almost become bigger than Roman.
And the thing to think as well, right,
at this
is
point.
Well, they're
Mad.
teasing that, aren't they?
Yeah,
they,
it's
they
mad.
are playing on that.
He was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm getting all the cheers and stuff, and it's like he's almost the biggest babyface in the company. And he's not.
I think he's going to be
yet.
very soon.
Next year,
I think one thing
if he does turn babyface and win the championship, this time next year we could be talking about Sami Zayn very differently. I think.
And again, a thing to remember with Sami and Kevin Owens is this time last year their contracts were up, and there was a lot of rumors about them leaving. I remember seeing so much on Twitter about KO. Oh, KO and AEW is going to be.
Oh
brilliant.
yeah, that was guaranteed.
It's not so much Sami Zayn people saying that much about, but like the fact that they've stayed with WWE and had both of them had the years they've had. KO main eventing with Stone Cold, like I said, Sami Zayn, the Knoxville stuff, the stuff with the bloodline, everything he's done really. What a year they've had between them, and then even like KO teaming with Cena by the end of the year, like the years they've had. I mean, they made the right decision for them, 100%.
Oh, of course they did, yeah.
And this is quite a
phenomenal.
difficult one to mention, I suppose, just because of how short the spell of the year was. But I don't think we can't mention Cody Rhodes just because of the impact he had when he came through the floor at WrestleMania. The matches he had with Seth were incredible. The promos he was shooting were mad. And the fact that he actually wrestled in that match to the caliber he did with that injury, and then the storyline carrying after that was just awesome. He can't obviously become Superstar of the Year because he just didn't do enough.
No.
I think he definitely would have been in the running if he had have stayed. 100%.
He would have been.
Even his
hard to
last
not be
match
number one.
in AEW actually was absolutely insane, and that was this year against Sammy
Was that this
Guevara in
year?
a ladder match.
Yeah, it was an AEW at the start of the year.
Yeah,
That's
that
mad.
match was
Mad
like
to
even
think.
that as a match.
Mad
was
times,
incredible.
isn't it?
Right, so we might as well complete the set and do tag teams. There's not as many on this list. I've got one that's going on your unsung thing, Keeney. We'll get to that in a minute. But I've got 3 other teams written down and one that I think are a bit unsung.
I've got 2 teams written down, which I can I'll just mention them. Then we'll go for it in a bit.
I think we'll be quick with it.
I think we're all going to have one, aren't we?
Yeah, the Usos.
Usos, right?
Of course.
Surely.
They've been champions all
the
year.
Usos are obviously on there.
And the other one I've got is the Acclaimed in AEW.
Yes.
I think this is
Phenomenal
this
year.
has been their breakthrough year.
Yeah. And this
again,
is one of the
turned
only
babyface
acts
and-
I've got really hot and they've stuck with it and it's worked. And
Yeah, AEW sometimes don't always strike while the iron's hot, but the Acclaimed, they've got bang on, and they have decent matches. The Acclaimed, they're not just an entrance.
They've had some
their
great
matches with
matches,
Swerve and Our Glory were really, really good.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't this time last year. I wasn't a huge fan. I thought their raps were okay, and
Yeah, we loved them. Me and Krusty.
Yeah.
I thought their raps
We
were
did love
decent,
them.
and they were a bit hit and miss. And I thought
Yeah.
their matches were okay, but they weren't being showcased weekly like as top stars. But now they're wrestling, at the top of the card more. And yeah, that the stuff with Billy Gunn as well.
Yeah,
It's
Billy
just made
Gunn.
them.
Oh, Billy
Yeah.
Gunn.
Daddy ass.
In talking of unsung heroes of the year, Billy Gunn,
Billy Gunn, absolute legend. He's just absolutely pied his sons to go off on this like amazing like resurgence. And 55 is he? And he looks like
madness.
that, and the matches he's having is mad. Absolute madness.
Did you know he's the oldest member of DX? And
That's mad.
He's easily in the best shape. He's easily in
Yeah.
the best shape out of all of them.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Another AEW team I'd like to mention, which you might please with this, Keeney, is FTR.
Yeah, they were on my list. They were the other team on my list.
Cracking matches, some cracking storyline, and I loved their entrance music.
If we were doing wrestling outside of WWE and AEW, they would be top of the list, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen enough of them this year.
In AEW, Tony Khan's pied them a little bit. They got really hot and he didn't, but they've wrestled. Obviously, they were AAA tag team champions. They were Ring of Honor tag team champions. They had a lot of people have said the match of the year this year is FTR versus the Briscoes, which is on a Ring of Honor show. Really? I haven't even seen that match, so that's why I haven't mentioned it. But I've seen so many people say that was the best match this year. FTR are incredible. I don't know if they're WWE bound again because
there was a little run of Dax Harwood having singles matches as well, where he was putting on bangers. Like this guy, just a singles guy can go. They're always in my conversation.
They were in my more for their work outside of AEW, which I haven't even seen.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen enough of them to give them the honor, but yeah, glad they got a mention.
They definitely needed it.
The only other team I wanted to mention, they're a bit more of an unsung team, really, is I think one of the unsung heroes of the year is Chad Gable, and the unsung team of the year is the Alpha Academy. They've been on both shows a lot. On Raw and SmackDown, they lose all the time, but they always have great matches.
I think Gable's got
great character
second
work.
To most losses, is he?
Yeah, he has.
Yeah,
he must do. I was surprised he wasn't top, actually.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. No, I completely agree in terms of unsung heroes.
Obviously, they haven't had titles.
Very good wrestling,
like that, but just really, really strong.
It's
weird not having the Young Bucks in there, but they haven't done much.
They haven't done too much. But I think actually, in terms of wrestling quality, not so much storyline because there hasn't been too much. Probably Death Triangle.
Yeah,
their matches
put on bangers, aren't they?
Insane. I never am disappointed by a match they put on. And it's a shame it went a bit stale, but Street Profits, I feel.
Yeah, it's not been the best year, Profits.
Just great wrestling matches, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just a bit. We were hoping there was going to be some sort of turn, and it just never came, did it?
I think I probably predicted a heel turn at some point this year. I think maybe
we did about 3 times.
This time last year, I think maybe like close to it.
I'd love to watch our review back from 2022 and see what we thought.
Well, you can on our YouTube channel.
Yes,
so check it out, guys.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, I think I'll actually watch that later as well. The only other ones, I think, again, more probably just honorable mentions. Pretty Deadly, NXT, had a bloody good run. Since they come in. I think they only come in halfway through the year, so it's like a half a year jobby, but I think they've been really good. And the Creed brothers as well in NXT have been brilliant. Again, speaking about banging matches, Julius Creed in particular doesn't really have a bad match. But I don't think they're really tag team of the year contenders. I just want to give them a mention from NXT. I
think also we can't go through this list without mentioning Imperium.
Yeah,
the matches they have, them coming onto the main roster and propping up Gunther, and the addition they've brought to that, I feel is
they were Fabian Eichner. No, what's his name? Giovanni Vinci was separate for a little bit, wasn't he? That's the only thing against them. He was on NXT, and then Triple H brought him up. But yeah, always good. And I mean, the New Day, we haven't mentioned them. Again, maybe they're a bit stale now, but they've had some great matches.
They've had some great matches, but the start of the year, I think, was very.
They do annoy me.
Wasn't around, was they?
They're NXT champions, so yeah. Well done to them, New Day.
I mean, they're always going to be in the conversation because they are legends, but
Yeah.
It's not been their best year, of course, by a long shot. Should we move on to something else?
Yeah, I mean, we're on the subject of like superstar of the year, this kind of thing. So the other category that I know we definitely did last year was like breakout of the year or unsung, or I don't know how you want to word this.
Let's do breakout.
Yeah, I remember saying last year Damian Priest was. I remember this because I remember saying Damian Priest because I thought he was good. Actually, again, I watch it back, but I think I said he might be world champion this year. Okay, it's not been that kind of year for Priest. It's actually digressed a bit, but that's who I said last year. So that's the kind of thinking I was having. And there's a few names I've got, but I've actually got a clear first choice personally.
Okay.
But
you can crack on if you want. So I haven't really thought about this category.
One of the people I want to mention who's not my choice is Ricky Starks, who's had a good year in AEW.
Yeah,
and he's getting them pushed now that he
on the main title
deserves.
scene now. Yeah, he's finally getting what he deserves. But the person I want to pick as my breakout of the year, and again, this is going to sound a bit silly because we spoke about him a lot. I think he won awards last year for us, but Gunter. He's broke onto the main roster this year. It was NXT start of the year, hadn't been on the main roster. And what I like about him is he's basically been called up and is as dominant as he was on NXT and NXT UK. He just wins matches. I think he's just more than I anticipated. There was that period when they did that Survivor Series with NXT, and I think he lost in a one of those.
He got pinned by Drew in,
the elimination tag match. Yeah,
I
was like, oh my god, if he gets called up and this happens to him, we saw what happened with Karrion Kross,
and it was going that way, by the way.
Yeah,
under Vince.
Karrion Kross got called up, but Gunter has had a phenomenal year. Like I say, we've mentioned about he could have his own top 3 match of the year contenders, and I know we know him. We've known him for 3, 4, 5 years now, but there are some people who wouldn't have known him at the start of the year. And I think he has broken out on the main roster, and maybe I think he has improved slightly, even still on what he was. But yeah, for me, he's like the main roster breakout this year.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you at all. Yeah,
obviously,
I think I get your point as well.
If you're talking about someone who's been on the main roster a long time, but's had a monumental year in terms of getting to a different level, I think Sami Zayn is an obvious pick.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But to me, he's not really a breakout star because he was already a top tier level guy before, almost.
I've got
a resurgence.
I do have one. Oh, go on.
I was going to say, I've got another name but it might be the same one you're going to mention, so you go. Because I don't want to.
No, I forgot who it was now.
Oh, well, another name I was going to mention for having a breakout year is Solo Sikoa.
Oh, of course.
Another one
100%.
Come from nothing, and now he's like he
pinned Sheamus.
Yeah, done Sheamus in
this week.
Yeah, he's just become like the enforcer of the bloodline, and I can't remember seeing someone move onto the main roster with like just such ease, just smoothest transition ever. Just nothing's changed. Like he's just settled in perfectly. There's no like bedding in time, or is he going to make it? No, he's just bang. He's straight onto the main roster scene.
Yeah, I know who I was going to say now.
Go on.
It's a bit of a late. This might be a bit of a recency thing, and it's only been sort of the last couple of months. But LA Knight, in terms of how he's getting over on the main roster, since he obviously Vince wasted his time with the Maximum Male Model stuff. He could have been.
We can ignore that.
Yeah.
If you forget all that shit, and since he's become LA Knight and Triple H has been there, I think he's rising to the top. He could be a good outside bet, I think, for like a Money in the Bank winner next year or something like that.
I'd love him Money in the Bank. That would be brilliant.
Money in the Bank winner.
Yeah,
it'd be amazing. I would love that. Thinking back to the stuff he had on NXT with Cameron Grimes when they had the $1 million championship and some of the promos he was doing.
Yeah. Imagine him cutting promos with his Money in the Bank briefcase walking around.
Wait, yeah.
It would be a phenomenal. Yeah.
Great shout. Looking at maybe women superstars, I don't think it feels as hard hitting as maybe Gunther, etc. But I'm thinking a couple of names that come to mind. Well, 3 in fact. So I think Raquel Gonzalez has had a good year. She's not had anything like amazing, but she's in the main title picture. I'm not
Yep.
too keen on a sort of babyface attempt. I think she needs to maybe turn heel to really
Yeah.
embrace her character, because I thought in NXT she was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think she's broken on. She's got into that main title scene, and the match she just had with Ronda on SmackDown, I thought was brilliant, and one of Ronda's best matches I can remember in a long time.
Yep, 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Couple of other names, maybe fizzled out slightly lately, but Damage Control. So Io Sky and Dakota Kai, we thought probably was, especially Dakota Kai, we thought we wasn't going to see again. She was talking about quitting wrestling. She makes that massive impact at, was it SummerSlam?
SummerSlam, yeah.
SummerSlam, big impact. Got so excited about that. Some of the matches they've had singles matches, tag matches. They've been involved with all the top tier women. I think you can't not talk about it. And they, to be honest, for probably about a month or two, Raw felt like it was mainly about them.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, really enjoyed that.
I think on the women's side, Jamie Hayter, obviously we've talked about her in Women's Superstar of the Year,
Yes.
but in terms of she's the breakout women's star for me because she's just gone from like Britt Baker's sidekick to champion.
100%.
Yeah, she could be number one, couldn't she? Jamie Hayter.
Yeah, I think she
definitely
probably is
is.
in terms of women's breakout stars.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Yeah, that'd be where my vote would go.
What else is there? I mean,
So we've got pay-per-view of the year.
I
Yeah.
think we're all going to say the same thing, aren't we here?
But
This
this could be
is-
quite quick because I think Clash at the Castle will be ours
Clash at
because
the
we were there.
Castle.
Clash at the Castle.
But I do think WrestleMania was a really strong Mania this year, much better than the year before.
Yep.
Where you had a lot of filler. I thought the most of the big matches delivered. Obviously, the Cody return with being epic. Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, Stone Cold wrestling was a massive deal. So there was a lot of really good stuff at Mania. And obviously, I also noted down Survivor Series War Games. Just special to see War Games on the main roster. For
Yeah,
me.
I
And you had
also,
that triple threat.
yeah,
which was
no,
bang.
fair enough. I also want to mention SummerSlam as well.
Yep.
SummerSlam was good.
Well,
really enjoyed
SummerSlam,
it.
you had that Roman Brock, we just mentioned.
Yeah,
the
because that was like
Control
a week
return
after
in.
Triple H.
Yeah,
came in.
that
So he
was a
made a bit of a
good-
statement, I think.
That was a good pay-per-view. That was
In terms of
But
worst pay-per-view of the year, for me,
go
Royal
on.
Rumble.
Yep, that was a mess, wasn't it? I remember we all sat there and all of our. I wish we had a camera on our faces.
The
when
end
Brock
of it
Lesnar
was
come out
ruined
at the
it,
end.
didn't it?
Our faces dropped, and it was
It's annoying because it's the one we watched
groaning.
together, apart from Clash, obviously.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's a
it
shame.
just-
It was so
It was a
bad.
bit of a skid mark on the year, unfortunately.
But Clash at the Castle, Krusty. Why is that the pay-per-view of the year?
I just think, apart from potentially the Liv Morgan Ronda match, there wasn't
Shayna.
anything that was. Sorry, Shayna. Yeah, exactly. The fact I can't remember who was in it
Yeah.
shows how uninspiring it was. But all the matches were fantastic. 3 that really stand out: Seth versus Riddle. In fact, 4: Edge versus Ray.
We got the Dominic turn.
So
Clash
yeah,
at the
the
Castle happened
turn.
at
I mean,
Clash.
yeah,
yeah.
incredible scenes at
Yeah.
Clash. The Sheamus Gunther match, and then the main event. Just the crowd was so into it. Looking at the stats the other day, it was the second biggest pay-per-view of the year in terms of attendance, only behind WrestleMania by not an awful amount, probably around 20,000 max. I think it was less. So the noise inside that stadium was incredible. Everybody was really into it. The wrestlers, you could tell they were properly up for it. The only thing that I think let it down for us was the result, and that was just because we were biased to wanting Drew to win.
Yeah. And in
I
the
think-
long run, I think that was the right decision now, looking back on it.
Yes,
Because
definitely.
I don't think if Drew won, what would have happened after? Like,
He'd have had to have lost it on Raw.
like
Yeah.
where would we be now? We'd be like, well, what was the point in that, I reckon?
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd
definitely.
be like a Drew carrying Cross feud for the title or something.
Yeah.
So where it'd be right now.
And
yeah.
what would Roman?
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. In
And this
hindsight,
Bloodline storyline with Zayn probably wouldn't even be there. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's one of them things.
yeah, but yeah,
Um,
just amazing. And just being there, the atmosphere, everything was just,
Yeah,
that's
First
that's
major stadium show in
yeah.
the UK for 30 years. Just
that's a day that will live with everyone who was there forever. Like that's just phenomenal.
Obviously, I think all of AEW's pay-per-views are fairly strong this year. They normally are because they're 3 months apart. My criticism is
Yeah.
obviously they're too long and they have too many filler matches on them, but All
Yeah,
Out
there is
was
too
pretty good.
much, yeah.
in terms of wrestling, I mean, I've seen a lot of people say Forbidden Door was like the best pay-per-view of the year in terms
I
of wrestling.
really enjoyed Forbidden Door.
But
Really enjoyed it.
my only problem was I wasn't as invested in the matches because there were a lot of people on the card that I wasn't interested in. There were matches that kind of the results were kind of obvious as well, some of them.
And some had almost no build as well.
Yeah, some of them had no build. So there wasn't, in terms of actual in-ring wrestling, it was an amazing show. But
yeah,
it wouldn't be my pay-per-view of the year for the reason I wasn't invested enough in it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Should we move on to return of the year? I think there's only one winner here.
Yeah,
there's been so many returns.
Fairly
in a year of returns. I mean, we'll talk about the ones under Triple H. There's obviously been AEW debuts as well. But Cody Rhodes is the return of the year quite comfortably.
100%. 100%.
It's not going to get beaten. That return at WrestleMania was unbelievable. The follow-up to everything he did up until, unfortunately, his injury was brilliant. In terms of other returns, anything else that stood out to you in terms of returns this year? Obviously, MJF's return to AEW after he went away was bloody good as well. I want to say that. But
I was going to mention
Bray. Got to mention Bray.
Yeah.
I know it hasn't really heated up yet, but you just can't not mention Bray Wyatt. The amount of hype that was around him coming back.
Yeah, big build to that one. Yeah. I was going to mention on AEW as well, Saraya, when she for me, I was like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. So that one got me. But yeah,
I think the follow up to that let it down though.
No, it has. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of just the initial, oh my god, this person. I mean,
I'd say
about initial buzz, carrying Cross.
I'd say Damage Control would be in that.
They would be. They would be
big time.
There, yeah, they would be. And
Gallows and Anderson was a cool one. When they first came in, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah.
To be honest, very recently, if we're just talking about the initial pop of it, Charlotte. I can't deny, I was pleased to see it back.
We had Becky fairly recently on Raw returning.
So here's that's so many this year.
Not rest. This is difficult because it's not wrestler, but wrestling. Triple H. He actually had stepped away. If you remember, he'd said he was stepping back because he was ill, and then to come back, take on the company, and do what he's done with it. It's shaped wrestling as a whole completely, hasn't it? It's completely changed the landscape.
And that's the biggest thing of the year, isn't it? Vince retiring.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly. My next category was going to be moment and sort of story.
Well, yeah, I've actually got a different moment, so yeah.
But But any other returns you want to talk about before?
Well, a couple of just very quick sort of legend returns. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, of course. I was going to say that in a moment.
As well.
Lita, that's a good one.
That
was a really good match with
Becky
Lynch. Yeah.
It's difficult to remember these sort of one-shot bangs, but it was great, wasn't it? Braun Strowman. I enjoyed his return.
Yeah.
In terms, not talking about it as a whole, but the initial sort of.
I think I knew he was coming back, so I wasn't as excited. I'd heard a couple of days before.
Yeah, it's hard now to not know people are coming back.
The thing is, I knew Bray was coming back, but I still love what they did with it.
Yeah. Well, even Cody, we all predicted Cody,
and we all kind of knew it was Cody. I knew MJF was coming back as well, but it's the way it was done was brilliant. With Braun, he kind of came out and interrupted the tag team thing, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
What about Bronson Reed's? No one saw that one coming.
No, I enjoyed that as well.
Dexter Lumis. That was a weird one. We weren't expecting.
Dexter Lumis. For fuck's sake.
Tegan Knox.
Johnny Gargano's was cool.
Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega returns.
Theirs was cool, but the way they done it wasn't as good as it could have been. I don't think.
No.
Because they kind of built it up. There was going to be. We kind of knew it was going to be them by the fact they were doing a trios tour.
But also, and then a few weeks later, he's been suspended, so it was all a bit of a mess, wasn't it?
Yeah, that went a bit.
Kenny Omega's return.
Yeah, and then when they come back the second time, it was good, but we knew it was coming. It was the way it was set up, so it was fine. But yeah, it was good, but yeah, nothing special.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, do you want to move on to moment of the year?
Yeah,
or top mark. I guess this is essentially the top mark, isn't it?
I've got my top mark in general as like a storyline top mark, and then I've got my moment as a different thing, really. So my moment is obviously the Vince thing. I just think it changed. I mean, it's the biggest thing to happen in wrestling like ever, really. It completely changed the landscape of WWE. It's had an effect maybe on AEW too. I mean, they've lost William Regal. Like William Regal doesn't go back to WWE, for example.
Well, and nor do Gargano, Candice.
No, and all the returns,
Dakota,
Bray Wyatt,
Io,
none of these
Bray,
people come back.
Braun,
So it's had a massive effect on the business. It's given people jobs. It's given WWE a new lease of life. The in-ring quality has been better. It's not been perfect. There's still improvements that can be made, of course.
Yeah.
In terms, and obviously the scandal itself was a big news thing. We won't go into the details of that because I don't think we really need to. Look it up online if you want to, if you don't know about it. But yeah, just everything surrounding that. There have been other big stories this year, but that for me just can't be beaten. What was
Massive
yours?
story in terms of moment for me? I can't get out of my head the Cody Rhodes return at WrestleMania.
Well, that's mine, Cody.
Don't know. I don't
returning.
remember feeling like that about wrestling. I was just so excited. And
in terms of an on-screen thing, I'd agree with you on that. Because Vince's wasn't an on-screen moment, was it?
I also think it was the first. Obviously, the on-screen thing, like I remember
it was AEW going to.
Yeah, it was the first chink in AEW's armor. That was the first time someone, not just someone, but the vice president or whatever he held, moved back to WWE. That is monumental. That's that changed a lot. I think that move. Obviously the Vince McMahon thing is probably bigger in hindsight, but for me, I watched WrestleMania slightly later because I think I was away that weekend.
Vince almost needs his own category of legacy and legacy of the century ender.
But the thing is, I think I'd still pick this Cody one. It was just I remember sitting because I was in the car driving back from somewhere watching it on my phone. I remember the goosebumps of that period, as the music. I haven't felt like that for.
No, I agree with you in terms of
maybe
on
ever.
Screen, something that happened on the screen. I totally agree with you.
And his obviously what happened after it was phenomenal from Cody. He come back. We weren't expecting his music. We weren't expecting the American Nightmare. He's just this AEW character that moves to WWE. And that was under Vince, by the way. This isn't new Triple H era. This was under Vince. That is a huge deal. He changes Walter's name to Gunter because he doesn't like it. He changes people as he sees fit. So for Cody to do that, that was just something I never thought I would see. I also never thought I'd see Vince retire, but there we go.
In terms of something else that I think need to mention, and again, it's not an on-screen thing, but in terms of moment, I think Sasha Banks and Naomi walkout is massive. Yeah, and again, that's something that's had a big effect. It had a massive effect on the women's division, the tag teams. Just everything, and Sasha Banks is such a big star. I mean, Naomi is too, but Sasha's such a big star that every day since there's been talk about it. People, and now is back in the news again because her contract, I think, is officially her free agency is officially starting today. So she's taking wrestling bookings from today. Obviously, she's going to be at New Japan pay-per-view this week or next week or something. But yeah, for me, a huge deal because Sasha Banks was probably a favorite wrestler of mine, definitely female wise.
Yeah, all of ours, I think.
100%. Yeah, and for me, the best women's wrestler in ring wise in WWE, and she's gone just like that. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to secure to get her back, which actually surprised me because I thought Triple H would be able to do it.
Yeah,
because we know what he thinks of Sasha. But yeah, that story was huge, and the way they kind of just left and walked out and dropped their titles on John Laurinaitis' desk and left. That doesn't happen very
mid-show.
often.
That was mid-show. They'd already booked a main event, haven't they? And they had to change it or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was a huge moment as well.
Something that pops into my head from AEW, the MJF promo at Tony Khan. That one. His pipe bomb or whatever you want to call it. That was insane, and I watched that back a few times.
I've watched that a few times.
Thinking, is this real? Isn't it? We still don't actually know, do we? If that was,
I think it is real. But
what that some of the stuff that was coming through in that, The way that when I watch something back, like the Cody thing, I watched back multiple times. This promo, I probably watched 4 times at least, maybe more. That just had a big impact on me. I loved it. The storytelling was great as well around that, the build to it. And like Fisher said with the Sasha Banks story, there was talk about this all the way up until he returned.
Yes,
non-stop.
Yeah.
And also, it's not going to stop until his contract runs out, because he mentions when his contract's over and when he's going to move on, and like it's going to keep coming up. I mean, we can't talk AEW news without talking about CM Punk either.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I was going to leave this for sort of.
Well, we'll discuss this in more detail later.
But but obviously that was one of the biggest moments of the year as well.
Huge news. And also, by the way, we're talking about all these moments. Stone Cold returned this year. Like in any other year, that would be the #1 talking point of the year. It's Benedict's top 10 this year. It's ridiculous. Stone Cold's first match since 2006, whatever it was.
2004, I think.
2004. It's mental that we've not mentioned that.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy that happened. And talk is he might consider doing it again, which would be very interesting. But the fact that he had a match was, and not just like, I thought, okay, if he has a match, he's just going to stomach Kevin Owens and pin him. He took suplexes in the arena, like in the crowd.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, mental.
Like he didn't. It was a proper match. It wasn't, it wasn't just a 2-minute quick. What I was expecting it to be, if they even did a proper match. The fact that he wrestled. I mean, Vince McMahon wrestled as well, and that was an abomination. Do you remember him falling over? It's like missing his spot, and I mean that was ridiculous. But yeah, that's Stone Cold wrestling again. Like you said, probably would have been a big story if that had happened in 2021. That probably would have been the story of the year.
Like Stone Cold's my favorite wrestler of all time. That would be my #1 story in most years. Like it's hard like that. I've barely even thought about that this year because there's been too much happened. That's just dropped off my radar.
Another big thing, which normally would probably be such a large, if we were talking about AEW, especially on its own, Regal turning was a massive moment. On Blackpool Combat Club. That's huge, I think.
That's
considering
mad,
the rise they had.
I think I think obviously the reason they did that was because maybe they knew he was going to leave, but
I mean, even Regal turning up at AEW was massive. When he just come down in that Moxley Danielson match, and what's going on here? But a mad year.
There's also another thing we've not even mentioned: Shane McMahon getting basically booted out of WWE. I mean, that's huge when you think about it. How much involvement,
especially when it was Vince in charge at the time. That is another big thing. Mandy Rose is firing recently as well. Is another big story. Like there's been so many big things that have
Mysterio's turning on each other. So Dom turning on Ray, that was a big deal. We've been waiting for that for a long time, haven't we? Been a massive year for wrestling.
Biggest one I can remember in years.
Should we get on to top marks and skid marks then?
Well, that's essentially my top mark is Cody. That's the best thing happened this year for me.
So my top mark is just the ongoing storyline of the Bloodline. I have to just put it over how good it is. For me, it's the best storyline we've had in wrestling in a good few years. Certainly in WWE, because some of the AEW early storylines were really, really good. But for me, I haven't been this invested in a storyline maybe since KO and Jericho, I would say, a few years ago. Just the way they added Solo Sikoa to it effortlessly, and he's slotted in. Paul Heyman's effect on it, Roman's presentation, the Usos having all of them being draped in gold help.
They've all got different characters, haven't they?
Sami Zayn, the Usos being individuals more. Sami Zayn just being incredible in it. I mean, and good to see a faction of a proper faction, not 3 men, not 6 people essentially in this faction, if you include Heyman.
And what's great as well about all of this is there's dynamics between. You can take any 2 of them separately, and there's different dynamics between all of them.
Yes.
Like Sammy and Jimmy's different Solo and Roman. That's different to Jay and Paul. Like it's all different. Like it's just just a proper
and the fact it's long
story.
They haven't rushed it. They've kept it going. I think there's a clear end goal in mind. I think we'll know exactly what that's going to be soon. I think it's all, we're close to the end.
But we have said this before, though. I will just say we've said this before this year.
But it's WrestleMania season, though, isn't it? It's WrestleMania season.
Yeah, but
so
who knows? Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, just unbelievable storyline, and I've just loved it. And so for me, that's got to be my top mark in terms of overall. Just but Cody's return in one singular moment on screen, that Cody's return would be it. Yeah. Although, right, I have to say, come close to it. I was almost like, I don't know how to describe how I felt when they gave Sammy took his shirt off him and gave him the honorary shirt. Yeah. Honestly, I was nearly a tip. It was just beautiful.
Well, there's been a few like when Jay and Sammy are arguing, and then Jay's like, "I don't care what Roman thinks," and like the whole crowd gasp. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sat at home. I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my god, I can't just said that. Like that's the
and the hug as well. War Games. The hug at War Games.
Yeah,
beautiful.
War Games. Like the just so many the nuances of this story.
So that's why they're my top mark overall, because there's so many individual things that have just I've been in awe of. Obviously, the number one on its own probably would be Cody, but just the overall thing.
No, something that stands in my head. It can't beat the Cody moment for me or the overall Bloodline story, but when Seth finally won that US title, I loved that, and the build to it, and the sort of slog of getting him to win that title. Although he lost it quite quickly, but I didn't really mind because I loved the play on how Theory won that. I just loved it. Phenomenal. Yeah. Also, top mark, I suppose, overall is the fact that we had a UK stadium pay-per-view.
Of course.
Yeah, that's easy a top mark. Yeah, cool. That's a huge. Again, that would be our number one any other year. That would even be a question. But yeah, mad. What brilliant year. Let's hope next year is as good as this year, or better, maybe. Another UK show.
I'd be quite confident saying I can't see it being as good, but just.
I think WWE could be better this next year because we've got a full year.
Yeah.
Of Triple H with more long-term storytelling. Like the Royal Rumble last year was disappointing. This year, I think the Royal Rumble should be really good. And the build to Mania wasn't great last year. The Mania itself was really good.
Yeah, I will say Vince usually gets Mania bang on. That's one thing Vince always has done most of the time. I would say Vince. That's when he gets into his best mode Mania. He tends to pull off the banger Mania. Usually.
There's been some bad ones.
Triple H's first one though. This is a big one for Triple H.
That's why, and I think he's going to go all out. I think he's going to go all out, and so I'm excited from an AEW point of view as well. I think it will get better next year. I hope.
Well, yeah. I mean, I stopped watching it for a bit, and I watched the last couple of watched the last Dynamite and Rampage, and it's more the stuff I want to be seeing on my TV. So it's definitely looks on the up, and it's something I kind of lost interest in. I think I might try and pick up some interest in it again, and hopefully there's a UK show.
Well, there is going to be. It's been confirmed.
So. This year.
Yeah, it's 2023. London 2023. It's called. They haven't given an exact date yet, but it's definitely in London.
Craven Cottage.
And that really leads on to my skip mark. If we go there and then we'll. Oh, that's it.
Skip end on a nice negative skinner.
Well, we'll end with a nice.
It's a very positive pod.
We'll end with a nice positive message at the end. But skip mark wise, it's just the whole CM Punk Elite situation unfolding. The press conference was just difficult to watch, and it's just sad to see. It's almost. I'm going to compare this to Ronaldo because it's sad to see one of the goats end this way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
comparison.
Ronaldo and Piers was not too dissimilar to CM Punk and Tony Khan right there. And then what happened after that with the fighting and the biting and whatever happened backstage was a complete mess. And I think it derailed AEW for quite a while. And yeah, it's not nice to see it.
No, it was.
So it has to be a skip mark of the year.
Fair enough. It was a one-man ego trip from CM Punk. It was a huge night for AEW. He just won the title, CM Punk. It was a massive moment, and he couldn't just not bring this stuff up. And unnecessarily air his dirty laundry when he wasn't even asked about it. It wasn't like it was brought to him. He'd come to the interview with this prepped. And I think Tony Khan, I mean, it was a hard position to be in, but he didn't handle it very well. He kind of laughed and joked along. He didn't really like say, okay, let's stop this here. Let's, he didn't really take control of the situation at all, which isn't good. Vince would have shut that down, I think, if that happened under Vince. An absolute horror show from AEW that really derailed them, because not only did they lose Punk, they lost the Elite, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, and
it annoyed other people backstage and affected them as well. So
that really,
FTR were good friends with, and I still think there was something there. They're good friends with CM Punk, and I still think since that, you haven't seen them much on TV, and I don't know if there's anything in that, but it's just a theory really. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people, I know Jericho was involved in some stuff as well. Producers were fired and things like that. Like, it was a real mess, real mess.
Yeah, and it all come from CM Punk, unfortunately.
It all come from that.
Who this time last year we talk about. He returned last year. And
that was the big return.
The best thing of the year for us. Like, Krusty was, we were winning Krusty round on CM Punk. It was
winning me round. Yeah, and then when he did that, he proved me right.
He kind of upset. I don't really like him anymore now. I've just lost
interest. I don't know if you watched my people to dethrone Roman video that I did on this channel, but I had CM Punk on my list just as a joke one. But would you put it past Triple H just throwing money at Punk and be like, it'd be mad. But can you imagine?
Is that your CM Punk prediction?
Unless
my prediction is he doesn't wrestle again.
I'd be happy if he tries to pin Roman and then Seth stomps his head off and then wins the title. Then I'll be happy.
Do you reckon there's a chance of Punk in AEW?
In AEW?
Yeah. Has enough time passed?
Obviously there's a chance, because I haven't heard that he's actually officially out of contract, but I don't think he's coming back.
I don't think so.
I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he wants to come back, and I don't think they want him to come back. So I don't think. No, I just don't see it working if he did come back. I think there's more chance of him being in WWE, honestly. And I don't think there's much chance of that either, if we're being honest. I think he's been on some commentary and stuff in. I don't know if it's in UFC, but it's in some sort of form of fighting recently a couple of times. So I think he might just stick to doing that.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I don't think anything can top that, but something I think that's a bit skid marky is Ronda Rousey's reign as
she made my list, but just Ronda Rousey full stop this year has been terrible.
It's just been awful.
Her promos are the worst.
Her promo just the other night was horrific, talking to Charlotte terrible.
The only good thing at the moment is, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen SmackDown, the fact that she's now lost the title to Charlotte, which is another story for another time. But I think this now opens up the time for Shayna and Ronda to hopefully head towards a feud. Which
I think they might go tag team first.
Yeah, tag team championship
feud going into WrestleMania, and that I do want to see. I'd be happy with that, but I just think she ruined Liv. We mentioned Liv earlier, and I think possibly she could have been way up there in the woman of the year, women wrestler of the year. But Ronda ruined her, absolutely ruined her title reign. It was terrible. So, and I blame Ronda for that, not
100%,
not Liv. Obviously the booking was Vince's fault or whoever else was behind that, but Ronda Rousey I don't think has been a hit at all this year, which is a shame because she's such a big name and a big hitter.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, my sketch mark's very similar to Fisher's and AEW side of things, but I've mentioned a few times I lost interest in AEW, and I just think Tony Khan maybe just went mental with his booking at periods. The whole Forbidden Door stuff for me personally
I think the Ring of Honor stuff as well
was an absolute
took over. There were main eventing shows with Ring of Honor all the time.
Yeah, Ring of Honor championships. They introduced All Atlantic Championship and all these new championships, and then everyone's got a belt on the show, and there's new people every week. And then Triple H has actually done that recently. I think he's introduced a few too many Triple H, in my opinion.
At least some of his though. Most of them have been on WWE TV before.
Yeah, and a lot of his returns,
And shouldn't have been
I think
released.
are more just fillers of the roster. They're not like, look at this amazing return. Whereas I'm sure there's a period where Tony Khan was like a big return happening this week, and it was like Tony Nese. Oh, okay, well done, big one.
How have you mentioned Tony Nese in this?
It's in my
He's
skid mark
always got a
section.
good
Every
dig
time
in it,
you have
hasn't
to
he?
bring
It's in
up
my
Tony
skid mark
Nese.
section.
Can we have a Tony Nese unsung hero?
God, what's he done this year? Go on, what's he done?
I don't know.
I loved one of his matches.
Oh, he's had one match,
and
good
some of
match.
his
Well done.
promos when he did some promos with Mark Sterling, and I thought it was brilliant actually.
Yeah.
So
He's trying too hard. He's
that, Mark.
rubbish. He's not rubbish. He's just boring. That's what he is. But yeah, AEW in general, I think this year hasn't been. This is the year that I've lost interest in AEW. It is just from the booking decisions. The CM Punk thing doesn't help. There's a lot of like. It kind of built up for a little while, and then I think Forbidden Door was my because I don't watch New Japan. I just, I think the Forbidden Door is a really good idea for those people that are really into New Japan and know all of these like, these Okadas and all these people. Like, there's definitely a fan base for that, and I think that fan base will have Forbidden Door at the top and have what they, that period is like the elite of AEW, but. For those of us that don't know that sort of stuff, like they just did not cater for us. They did not set up matches properly. They didn't introduce us to people properly. They just threw stuff out there and assumed people would know what was going on. And like, I was like, well, what's the point of me watching this Forbidden Door? Because I just don't know anyone. And so I lost interest there. And then, I watched it for a bit after that. And again, all this Ring of Honor title stuff and TV Championship and Pure Championship, and again, I'm not watching Ring of Honor. I'm watching for these AEW guys that I've become invested in the last 2 years, and all of a sudden these guys aren't being shown as much because they're showing us, all of these people for one-off matches. Like Bandido will come up, and I don't care about Bandido because he's not on it. So
Bandido had some banging matches.
Yeah, it's actually bad. He was quite good, but. Yeah, he's just who I could think of. But yeah, so they lost me. But I said all of that. I've watched the last couple of shows. I've actually quite enjoyed them. So I plan to keep watching AEW going into the new year. And I think they're on the right path now. But I think this year they really lost me as a fan, unfortunately. So that's got to be my skid mark. Just AEW in general this year, unfortunately. And CM Punk and Ronda Rousey. She was rubbish as well. And Tony Nese.
Not Tony Nese.
B-Fab.
But overall, he's just getting carried away now.
To be honest, Hit Row haven't been great since they come back, have they?
They haven't, no. That's
Not been great, but I wouldn't say they're a skid mark though.
Yeah, a skid mark of 2022 is a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Hit Row.
But I think overall, phenomenal year in terms
Amazing.
of happenings in and out of the ring. It's just been absolute bedlam, for better or for worse. But it's made damn good watching, hasn't it?
Yeah. Amazing.
But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for 2023.
Absolutely.
In the wrestling arena.
That fish is muted. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Kirsty. It's been, like I say, I think it's been the best year in wrestling ever. Maybe it's right up there. Like in my opinion, maybe
I can't remember any Attitude Era spells, so I remember it feeling amazing back then.
Yeah, if we were covering, maybe because we cover wrestling now, we didn't cover it 10, 15 years ago. Maybe there were periods 10, 15 years ago which were great as well that we don't come to the top of our head. But just the amount of news stories in the last year. The one thing about covering wrestling is there's very rarely a dull week. It's rare. There's a week where we don't have a big news story out of that, or a title change or a return.
The COVID era, the Thunderdome,
yeah. But that's a different time. But yeah, it's just so much happens, and I think we're only going to get more of that in 2023. We're going to see. I mean, AEW have got a whole new refresh. They're basically redoing their visuals of their show, and who knows what other changes they're going to make. Who knows what Triple H is going to do with returns and pushes. Who knows, this time next year we may have Dexter Lumis as WWE champion or something. Who knows?
I was actually going to say, before we sort of sign off, just a thing for 2023. One man, woman, and tag team that you think should be like world champion next year.
Okay, that's a good
That's just a
question.
bit of fun towards the end of this pod
Good
to
question.
close the thing.
Um,
And I'll,
do you,
I'll
do you
say
have
mine
anyone
as
in
well.
mind, Fisher? What do you think?
Well, for men, obviously, I think Cody Rhodes is the obvious answer, but Sami Zayn
Yeah.
would be the other one for me. Women, Rhea, I guess, and tag team. I'm going to say Afro Academy because I think they deserve a run.
Yep, fair enough. So I think a male who I think will be world champion in 2023 is Austin Theory. I think
Yeah,
he'll
he's
win
a
a
good shout.
championship this year. I think I'm really tempted by like Cora Jade. I wouldn't be surprised if she got called up and won a title. It would not surprise me at all.
Corey Jade definitely could come up this year.
Yeah, so I might go Cora Jade. And then tag team, yeah, Alpha Academy. But then they've been champs before, haven't they? So it's tough to Legado
New
del
team wise, I would have
Fantasma.
said Imperium.
Legado,
Actually,
I'll
I
go
should have
for.
said Imperium. Actually,
Yeah.
I think they're a better shout as main roster tag teams.
Gunter as world champion. That's
Yeah.
not a mad
If
shout.
it wasn't
either.
for the obvious shout of Cody, I probably would have said him.
Have you got anyone different, Krusty?
Yeah, so the only one, it's kind of a wish, but you could win it at any time. To add to Theory, Sammy, and Cody would be Seth Rollins. I
thought you were going to say LA Knight.
No, that'd be awesome. But I don't think you can count out Seth. I honestly
he
don't,
could be
especially
champion,
under Triple H at some point. And this would be a call up as well, but I'm thinking potentially Toxic Attraction.
Yeah,
Call up and winning the women's tag belts.
I didn't think of women's teams, but yeah, they're a good shout. I think
Yeah.
that's a great shout. Yeah.
What about? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what about Carmelo Hayes?
Yeah.
Maybe not a world
champion.
champion.
I think a mid-card title.
Yeah, not the main title, but yeah,
title.
Intercontinental or.
I'd love to see him on a
Solo
US title run or something.
Could Solo win a world title this year?
I don't think so. I think he'll be he'll be at the top of the storyline, but I don't think he will win the title.
Maybe a mid-card again, but not.
He needs someone to speak for him at the moment, I think.
I wouldn't mind if
character's very silent, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if Solo and Paul Heyman went off separate, and like
that'd be good.
Heyman betrayed Roman for Solo to come in, and Solo had Heyman as his mouthpiece.
That's a good idea,
especially after if Roman loses the belt.
Yeah, Roman loses the belts, and Heyman's like, "Well, I'm off with Solo then. Screw you."
That's a good shout for a storyline next year. Yeah,
there you go. If that happens, I should win predictions.
And in terms of main title scene for the women, Becky certainly could win one again.
She should.
And I wouldn't mind seeing Bliss have a title run. Maybe if she changes her gimmick. We haven't seen what she's turning into at the moment, but she hasn't had a title since, was it 2016? The main title anyway. She had a tag belt, but
yeah, it's been maybe 2027. I think it's been a bit more recent than that, but not he's not far off.
Good.
Might be 2018, maybe at the very latest.
But yeah,
good question, Fisher.
Yeah, I just thought that'd be a good way to
spontaneous question.
Yeah.
I like it.
I enjoyed that.
So are we done then?
Yeah.
So basically, I think that's a great way to start the year, but end of the year review. If you enjoyed this, go and watch also our quiz that we did with Callie.
Oh yeah,
the other day, really fun content. If you like this kind of content, let us know, because we like doing reviews, and obviously it's important to keep everyone up to date on what's going on. But we like doing different content, and to do an end of year review, to do a quiz, stuff like that, really fun. So we want to do more stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let us know if you enjoy it, and any other ideas you've got that we could do would be welcomed as well. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at Recharge Wrestle, and like and subscribe here if you haven't already. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, find us on our podcasts as well. available on all good podcast networks. And that's it, really. Happy New Year to everyone. And
Yes,
Happy New Year.
we'll see you hopefully soon.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when, but soon.
Soon. We'll see
Next
you
week.
soon.
Yeah, keep
Probably later
tuned
this-
in for 2023. Thanks for listening.
Soon to be #1 wrestling podcast in the world.
That will really go over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was an NXT reference.
Christmas young
NXT
vets.
UK,
NXT UK.
actually, even. Yeah. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Have a nice week.
Goodbye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.